Hi, Jagger. And thank you for everybody who's here in person to get a hug and to be here and enjoy the music and everything, and for all of you on Zoom. Thank you. Whew. Thanks, Amy, for your music. Wow, it's very uplifting. And the worship team is always putting things together. And I want to especially acknowledge Marilyn. She writes sermons in the newsletter. So you can always get a full Sunday feeling from what she writes. And she also has some humorous expressions. And I just want to let you know that this morning I brought a special list of some Zen truths that I shared with them. So it's always darkest before the dawn. So if you're going to steal your neighbor's newspaper, that's the time to do it. If you think nobody cares you're alive, try missing a couple of car payments. Give a man a fish and he will eat for a day. Teach him how to fish and he will sit in a boat and drink beer all day. And maybe some of these people are home now ready to watch the Warriors game. Anyway, we have to have humor and lighten up. And we've talked about light here at the Home of Truth in many ways. And you know how it feels when you laugh. You know, it's like massaging your heart, I think someone said. So we know that with the seriousness that's going on in the world, there are also wonderful things that people are contributing, and actually all ages. There's a 12-year-old boy in Michigan who was on the school bus, and his teacher started to get a little woozy and fainted, and he rushed up, put the brakes on, and steered the bus in the right direction. Later, his father said that starting at 4, he had shown the boy how to drive. And so this was the perfect training and the perfect opportunity for this 12-year-old to shine. So we have all been trained in some ways, and we know that that will facilitate our being present and being responsive to whatever is going on with us. And Kathy mentioned about meeting people on the street or going up to a homeless person and listening or handing them some money. And of course, friends used to say, why give them money? They're not going to spend it in the right place. I go, that's not important. It's just one of the many ways we can say, I see you, you're a human being, I care about you. And that will shine your light and also draw forth the light. And many times, have you heard the people say back, God bless you? Yes. So we are a New Thought community, and I love the initials THOT, short for New Thought. And of course, it's not new. We hear similar messages, and these are reminders that we can put into practice. So we're renewing ancient traditions, ancient philosophies from many faith traditions, and just know that in the present, everything is newness and unfolding as it should. So this community has been like a second family for me for many years, and actually since 1984. And the friendships are long-lasting. Many of my close friends, where we brought our children here way back in the 80s and 90s, we still keep in touch. And so part of my prayer team stretches all the way from New Jersey to Hawaii because of this. So know that we aren't alone. There are people who stand by us. There are friends. There are strangers who will remind us who we are when we forget. And we can be one of those and not be so strange. In Matthew, also in Mark and Luke in the Bible, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. And the second commandment is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So many years ago, for about 3 years, I was a flight attendant internationally. And one of the things that the main flight attendant always said to the passengers was, look where the oxygen mask is, and you put on, if there's a need for this, you put on your mask first, and then your children's Mass. So that's kind of a reminder to love ourselves first, and then we're filling our basket with peace, love, and good vibes and loving kindness, and we can share it. We're overflowing and in the flow. So you have a handout, and there are several religions' phrases of the Golden Rule. So please take the handouts home and enjoy them. There are some sample meditations for you. And I didn't put any of the Zen quotations on there, but there are other quotations. And a poem I wrote in 1993 when I was working with Science of Mind ministers and musicians in Moscow about the connection and feeling the distance just melt away. And also there's my favorite prose by W.H. Murray, who did a lot of high hiking, and it's about commitment. So please enjoy these. And after the service, if you'd like to take any of my Science of Mind magazines, they're really germane to whatever's happening in the world. And short reading, I read it every day. It's my form of daily reading. And also I have 7 books there that I will take back, but you can take the magazines about, like Dr. Amen, change your mind, change your health, your thinking. And there's one by our own Pat Sullivan about work with joy and bring that into your workspace. I'm paraphrasing the titles. There's one by a young man, Craig Kielberger, who at a very young age started to notice that children were laboring where they shouldn't be. So he started an organization. So there are young people and people of all ages who make a difference, who are reaching out and operating from their own connection with spirit and spreading joy and assistance where needed. And what blesses one does bless all. You know how you feel when you give and you contribute, and how the other person expresses his or her or their appreciation. So I just want to do a brief prayer right now, calling forth that part within each one of us that knows we're connected to our source, whatever words we use, whether it's love, goodness, the consciousness of all that is, Mother, Father, God, divine being of light. Let us take what we are listening to and hearing people talk about today in our inner voice. Let's take the inspiration and the awareness into our hearts and our minds and our souls and see what difference we can make as we take one step at a time through life. I call it the 12-step of life. Keep moving forward. And yes, we will stand by each other. So in the book, How God Changes Your Brain, and I want to say how much of a privilege it is to be able to be speaking here today and other times. I spend a lot of time preparing, and it's my pleasure. Things pop up, I get examples of things I can use in my talk, and as a former high school teacher, I'm always over-prepared. But I'm asking you to fill in the blanks. If there's anything that you think could have been added to my talk, you can add it to yourself and take it in. So Albert Einstein, in a writing called The Human Side, said, "Our time is distinguished by wonderful achievements in the fields of scientific understanding and the technical application of those insights. Who would not be cheered by this? But let us not forget that knowledge and skills alone cannot lead humanity in a happy and dignified life. Humanity has every reason to place the proclaimers of high moral standards and values above the discoverers of objective truth. What humanity owes to personalities like Buddha, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad ranks for me higher than all the achievements of the inquiring and constructive mind." And we all know who Einstein is. Also, do you know how he came to develop the theory of relativity, he was gazing out and daydreaming, gazing out the window and daydreaming. So when we quiet our mind, take a walk in nature and just be present, you never know what will come up. Every year I write a poem for my Christmas greeting, and I always ask Spirit, okay, whether I'm on a plane coming back from my annual trip to Cabo San Lucas or walking the streets or sitting in my house, I ask and I receive. So I'm offering that idea to you too. In the book, How God Changes Your Mind, Andrew Newberg and his therapy partner in writing and in studies of the value of spirituality in our lives, he's spent 15 years investigating the neural mechanisms of spirituality with the same fervor that a minister contemplates God. And his work is at the University of Pennsylvania. He says the more people think about God, and again, whatever that invokes for you, the more you'll alter the neural circuitry in specific parts of your brain. Hence, God can change your brain, whether you're Christian, Jew, Muslim, or Hindu, or agnostic, or atheist. And so when you're in nature, when you see a beautiful flower, or look at the bouquets, the flowers came from our very own garden here. We didn't create those flowers. We didn't create anything. Even those of us who've had children and grandchildren, comes through us in something that we don't understand and is inexplainable. You know, we have the Big Bang Theory and a lot of theories. People are still exploring. And for me, the idea is whatever is being investigated within ourselves and with other people, is there a purpose? And like Einstein says, the main purpose is to improve humanity in our spreading of love, loving kindness, and peace. So the other thing to know is that for people who are raised with a vindictive type of a being, like, and they call it God, or punishing, that actually affects different parts of their brains, and it's not good. So the more we're thinking about what we call positive thoughts, it is changing our brain. And I've talked before about Susan Begley's book, Change Your Mind. How does she call it? She says, train your mind, change your brain. She talks about the experiments done with meditators, wiring up their brain, and how like the Dalai Lama's meditation adepts have a certain part of their brain that's very active and brings happiness. And they've applied that in many of the medical institutions in the form of mindfulness, and people have gone off of their antidepressants, given up their crutches of different varieties. So it was amazing to me that there's so many places where neuroplasticity is being studied. And let me look and see if I can find some of these places. Well, I mean, it's in Minnesota, Missouri, Wisconsin, Harvard Medical School. I did go to their Healing and Spirituality in Medicine in 1993, and it wasn't long after Herbert Benson had coined the phrase relaxation response instead of meditation, because meditation was a little threatening to certain groups of people. Oh, they're going to all become Hindus or something. So now, even in schools, they've been teaching meditation. They can say, let's meditate, let's center ourselves. So also Andrew's research at the University of Pennsylvania and the Center for Spirituality, it sounds like Science of Mind churches, they're calling it Center for Humanity, Center for Healing, Center for Spirituality and Mindfulness. They're studying Sikhs, Sufis, yoga practitioners, and advanced meditators to map their neurochemical changes caused by spiritual and religious practices. And the results are, each part of the brain constructs a different perception of God. Each brain assembles its perceptions of God in different ways. Spiritual practices enhance our neural functioning. Intense long-term contemplation of God permanently change the structure of the brain that control moods, our notions of self, and shape our sensory perceptions of the world. So we are thanking people also like the neurosurgeon Dr. Eben Alexander, who was in a coma for 7 days. You can find his book on Amazon also. He had an amazing near-death experience, and I've talked about his work since then and his connecting with a couple of brothers and finding out that he had a sister who actually was his guide during the NDE. But I used to come to the Home of Truth and buy like $40 worth of books every time I came. And I'd also be brought to tears because I was so moved by the music and the feeling. So I hope that this talk today and that your participation here in the Home of Truth and other spiritual centers will lead you to continue to read and remind yourself who we are and who you are when you forget. So these two fellows who wrote the book I've been mentioning, they chose Kirtan Kriya practice for their studies. So imagine yourself regulating your breath. It helps your immunity system, aging, cellular regeneration. Then they had the people repeat the sounds satanama, silently or aloud, and do like a mantra. Put your fingers with your thumb. So try doing that now. And for 12 minutes a day, you can change a lot of things about yourself. So the breath, satanama, or any other mantra. It can be divine love is present, I am whole and healed, Spirit is always with me. You can make up whatever you want and just sit there for 12 minutes. And here's what happened to Gus. He was kind of a big guy, maybe a stereotypical plumber who's got his bag of tools, a little rough around the edges, but a pleasant fellow. And no religion or meditation practice. He just wanted to help his brain. So he came to them, and they did brain scans before and after an 8-week period. And they injected a radioactive tracer and watched him for 8 weeks. So he did this, sitting still for 12 minutes a day, putting his fingers next to his thumb and repeating the Satanama mantra. And the next scan showed a significant increase of neural activity in the prefrontal cortex. That's for those of you who are into science and things. And the anterior cingulate was also activated. That's involved with emotional regulation, learning, and memory. So if you read this book, you can go around and name drop, and people think not only are you healthy, wealthy, and wise, but you're brilliant. You know all the names of those parts of the brain. Other effects are that you'll feel more unified and you'll be more in the zone and in the flow. Thich Nhat Hanh, I have several books down here about love and changing your brain and your mind and with how you think and how you approach life. So there are 8 best ways to exercise your brain are to smile. Thich Nhat Hanh has the smiling meditations. Stay intellectually active. Consciously relax, maybe with calming music. And you can also go online, and Unity has some really great short meditations, which I like. I can't say that I always sit down. I listen to them walking around or putting my makeup on or doing dishes. Yawn. Was a whole thing about yawning. I know in my Tai Chi class that we meet here or at my driveway when the weather gets better, every time we were in a circle and this guy John would start yawning, I'd yawn and I go, I can't be looking at you. I'd rather look at Choi, because she just makes me laugh. She does all these funny, Richard knows, all these funny expressions. So it's okay to yawn. It's healthy. And meditate, aerobic exercise. Yeah, while I'm drying my hair, I march in my bathroom. So I like to make things easy. Dialogue with others, so social interaction, and having faith. So often on my emails, I'll sign it with Love Nancy, Keeping the Faith. The other book I'll briefly mention is Healing Self, Healing Earth by Roy Holman. His purpose is for self-healing and awakening our presence, power, and passion so that bold solutions will naturally arise, that we are empowered within ourselves. We just ask and we can receive. Also, I mentioned about being like a child and the 12-year-old boy who's steered and stopped the bus. Well, there's a girl who, for her 9th birthday, because she had seen the value of food bank and how $1 could feed 6 families, Alexa Thengel Heyman asked for her birthday that people give $1 that would buy 6 meals. Guess how much she raised? $20,000. She was 9 years old. So if that's not inspiring, we can practice quality listening. The Buddha said, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning, while he was in the concentration camps, he committed to sharing his life's lessons as his purpose. So really, no matter where we are or what our experience is, and this morning I read about a guy in prison, and I met a guy on BART a few months ago who'd been in prison for like 41 years. Bright and happy, and they've found that place within themselves that never changes no matter how much space there is around them. And it's amazing and empowering. And then there's the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, living one day at a time. And by the way, I do pay attention to the news, and afterwards I'll bring some articles that will be uplifting. When you read the newspaper, it's not all doom and gloom. There are people doing amazing things, and that's where I want my attention. People of different ages and all sorts of things happening and commemorating. So let's close with a little guided meditation. And those of you who are in person here, you can see I brought a picture that a woman drew, painted years ago, and it's like walking a path to a little house. So take 3 deep breaths, please. Sometimes Marilyn or Kathy has us go, Heal me where I am in the deepest need of healing. Grant that I might serve you with my life. Give me all that I need in order to do your will. Help me to be an effective instrument of your healing power. And I invite you to take a little walk in your mind through this meadow, as you'll see in the painting. Smell the flowers. Maybe you'll hear the rustling of the wind in the trees or birds singing. Appreciate how your feet feel as you walk along the ground. When you're walking up a hill, you're seeking higher ground, metaphorically and actually. You see this house and you knock on the door because you're not afraid. You want to connect with that person. If there's anybody there, you're curious. You're open like a child. And you're saying to yourself, that which is right is unfolding in my life. And you open the door and there's a woman there. She looks very wise and very friendly, and she invites you in. She's sitting at a table with a little box. And she asks you, what is it you'd like in your life? What is on your mind right now? What will serve you? So think about something that you want to ask this woman in the house on the hill. She says, your message is in this box. Please open it and see what there is. So open the box in your mind. See what the message is. And this box will remain open at any time. You can close your eyes, take a walk up a hill, open the door to the light of consciousness, see what being or what message is there for you, and ask, and know ye shall receive. So whether it's one of the shuttle drivers that I talked to when I was in Breckenridge a week ago, one of them was kind of ticking me off, and I decided that I would look at him differently And suddenly he became such a nice guy. Told me his wife and he are going to Tahiti. Someone at grocery outlet. Hey, come back. We want to see you. We like your presence. I go, same here. Gerald Jampolsky and Diane Cirincione creating the Center for Attitudinal Healing in Tiburon years ago in 1975. I met them at a Unity Church in Walnut Creek. He was an atheist. The Course in Miracles changed his life, his mind, and everything. His book, Love is Letting Go of Fear, that came out in 1980, even ended up with a priest in Cuba. So we know that there's no limit to time and space. They were in a taxi, and I'm going to end with this story. They were in a taxi, and the man was sharing with them about how hard his marriage was, and his wife was really nasty to him. And they know that from the Course in Miracles, they're here to be truly helpful. So they listened to him and they asked, is there a way you could look at this differently? For example, we believe every attack is a call for love and healing. At the end of the ride, he says, I think you've changed my life. Wow, I'm going to try this. He sought them out later when he knew they were doing something in Marin, I guess, and he was waiting for them outside in his taxi. And he told them his whole life changed. So we do not usually know the end result of our spreading loving kindness. Mm-hmm. Yet it makes a difference both for ourselves and for that person. So for sure, may we all continue to be a living, loving expression of our divine source. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the handout. We're always here for you. From a distance and right up close. Thank you.